This episode is brought to you by Voco Hotels by IHG, where you should prepare to be charmed. From Chicago to Myrtle Beach to Saranac Lake, each Voco in the U.S. has its own local flavor and unique detail. Our hosts welcome you with little extras, and you'll find rooms for catching up on me time and full-service bars and restaurants that are perfect for us time. Come on in and live the Voco life and book your next stay at vocohotels.com. VOCO hotels.com.
Welcome to episode 100. Woo!
Episode 100
of the High Volume Hiring Podcast. Right now, I think a lot of our listeners just disconnected because they don't want to hear the woo-woos, but hang in there. It should be a good one. I'm Stephen Rothberg. I am the founder of College Recruiter Job Search Site. We believe that every student and recent graduate deserves a great career and that it should be easy and inexpensive for employers to hire them. Yeah, it's amazing. We got to 100. Actually, it's more amazing for Jeanette Leeds, my co-host, that she's tolerated me for 100 episodes. Jeanette, good to see you.
Good to see you too. So thrilled. Hi, everyone. Jeanette Leeds, COO of College Recruiter, HR Tech Advisor, AI coach, and all sorts of fun stuff. I am so psyched. Episode 100, such a major milestone. I did consider bringing in balloons and champagne, but we'll keep it a little bit more chill.
We'll let the content celebrate for us, right? Yeah.
And what I love about today's episode is that we are joined today by Javeed Khan. He is a co-founder and chief people officer at Tidy Hire. And what we're going to be talking about today with Javeed is, I just think it's, again, a perfect, episode 100 topic is how high volume hiring is evolving in the age of AI and automation, right? So we're throwing in buzzwords, but it's so incredibly topical. So Javeed, thank you so much for being here with us. Welcome.
It is an honor, and how lucky am I to be on the 100th episode, right? So thank you very much for having me on there.
Well, luck implies that it was random. So I think we should pretend that this has been planned for the last 3 years.
Right. Let's plan it that way. Absolutely agree. Let's behave that way, that this was planned. But really an honor to be with both of you tonight.
Well, why don't you give our listeners just quick overview of you, what Tidy Hire is, just sort of background there, and then we'll get into the real meat of today's episode.
I'll start with a joke, and I keep saying this to as many introductions I keep making. My wife and my daughter says I'm a better recruiter than a father and a husband. So that is how my life is all about, right? The last 2 decades of recruiting, that's what I've done. There were so many opportunities to go back and say, hey, Javed, why don't you become the head of HR? Why don't you go back and look at another vertical? And I was so passionate about recruiting, and I said, no, I think this is my calling and I want to do recruiting, right? So 2 decades of working for IBM, MasterCard, KPMG, and a few startups. And I organically then said, I want to take all of that experience and build something to help recruiters. So Tidy Hire came in place to build and help recruiters of all the problems that they face. And that's what I'm doing these days right now.
I love that. True expertise being put to good use.
And Javed, just before, when we were in the green room before we hit record, you were telling me that you moved to Dubai about 13 years ago.
Correct.
Did you start Tidy Hire after you moved there? How old are you? And also talk a little bit about the markets that you serve.
Oh, God, absolutely. So I'm 44 years. I'm very proud to say that, right?
I didn't mean you personally. I meant Tidy Hire.
So yeah, I'm up there. So here's how life started, right? Born, brought up in India, Bangalore. And I finished my graduation and all of that in Bangalore. And till about 2012, I was taking care of IBM India and IBM tech hiring on large volume recruiting. And 2012, I had the opportunity to move to IBM Middle East and Africa. That's what got me to Dubai in 2012. And I served the large organizations that I mentioned till about end of January 2025. So growing into a co-founder and startup has just been the last 6-7 month journey. And there was a role that I was playing as a strategic advisor to a lot of other startups, but was not a co-founder. But I've stepped into that entrepreneur journey just about 7 months back. So it's as recent as February, March of this year.
I love that. You know what's so awesome, which not everyone really realizes, is that having that background as a recruiter, right, is actually very similar to like how do you run a business, right? Whether a recruiting funnel, marketing, sales, there's a lot of similarities, which I can speak from experience. So, great background for the entrepreneurship. It's awesome. So, okay,
Thank you so much, Janet.
great. So let's talk about like what is the definition of high volume hiring and how is this evolving? Like, what are you starting to see in the past number of months? Evolving in the age again, like back to our title, what we're talking about AI automation, like so much change going on. What are you seeing?
When I reflect back on those days when I used to do volume hiring, we had to get to about 900 offers made between Sunday to Sunday. And that was high volume for
Wow.
me, right? Now, in India, to get to about 900 offers in 1 week, that's Sunday to Sunday, at 50% conversion on each cycling of the hiring, imagine the amount of candidates we had to screen, interview, and then process for offer at 50% conversion rates, right? Now, that was high volume and that was hugely laborized. I still remember having this calls on Friday evening with the recruiting team and saying, who's going where? Who's going to travel to this city? Who's going to manage that kind of operations? You've got 3,000 candidates coming. Do you have the infrastructure? Do you have the screening desk? Do you have the interviewers? Just that operations call used to take about 2 hours of my time on that Friday evening to make sure everybody is in the weekend, because weekend used to be the biggest days of getting people interviewed and getting recruited, right? That used to be volume recruiting. That's how kind of volume recruiting is what I have been used to. In the entire process, I don't still remember any candidate that I would have recruited in that week or the years that I did the volume recruiting. What I miss and what is evolving is the hyper personalization with the volume that we are managing. That's how AI is helping us get to every single candidate. If I had AI in those days, I don't think we would have been so much more labor intensive in terms of HR teams and the recruiting teams. But that's how things are changing from an AI perspective. You still are able to do so much hyper personalized candidate experience. Engagement is better during the process. It's no more brute force recruiting, and it's evolving that way. That's how I'm seeing the high volume recruiting evolve with the support of AI and automation right now.
Hey, it's Bob Pulver, host of You Podcast. Human-centric AI, AI-driven transformation, hiring for skills and potential, dynamic workforce ecosystems, responsible innovation. These are some of the themes my expert guests and I chat about, and we certainly geek out on the details. Nothing too technical. I hope you check it out.
That's fantastic. I'm so glad, Javed, that you touched on the personalization. I think I heard the phrase a couple years ago for the first time from Matt Alder: personalization at scale. And I think that AI has a ton of promise to do that. Where
Yeah.
yes, the recruiter gets the efficiency that they want, that they've always wanted, but we don't have to treat candidates as just interchangeable drones. Jeanette wants to be treated differently than me, et cetera, right? And the way that people talk with you and what's of interest to you is going to be different than me. So talk with us a little bit about like some of the areas that you see bigger employers hiring lots of people, where very few are personalizing, but there's a big opportunity to do that.
That's a great question. And I think I'm going to get a little controversial here. I think we need to move from comfort hiring to competence hiring. Okay. So when people are not using the right amount of automation, AI skills, tools, whatever, they are then sacrificing the quality and hiring for comfort and not actually finding the best candidate who has the best competence out there. I'll give you an example. Everybody's got an ATS. Now we open up a requisition, we get 100 applications.
Unfortunately, yes.
Unfortunately, I call them the graveyard of resumes, by the way, right? So,
Okay.
so the recruiter gets 100 resumes. What happens is the recruiter, from a humanized way, can go to maybe page one, page two. But what if there's a candidate on page three who's amazing, or the page four who's amazing? So you hired for comfort and not competence. That's what I'm seeing in high volume recruiting these days, is just not able to manage the processing or the amount of desperate applications that's out there. And hence you're satisfying yourself by saying, I think we got the best, but maybe that's not the best what you were looking for actually.
That's interesting. I mean, sort of building on that, like, what are some practical ways that then organizations can, again, going back to the whole idea around personalization at scale, personalization, volume hiring, like, how can people do that you're seeing? And I think what's also important without slowing down the process, right? Like, because we know we got to move fast, right?
Correct.
Like you slow down, candidates are going
And
elsewhere.
I think I'm sure you heard it. I heard it. There's one tagline in recruiting. When do you need the candidate? As of yesterday. It's never tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Everybody needed it. So that speed is never going to die down. And I think we got to start thinking about, how am I going to do this? How am I going to scale? Because it's no longer just filling the seat, but it's actually scaling with the right fit and also making sure you're giving the right candidate experience. What I say is every recruiter out there should have some kind of an AI to support them, not replace, support them. When a recruiter has, so, and every talent acquisition team has a different problem. Some organization has attraction, some people might have an onboarding, and some people might have the interviewing as the problem. Not everybody has the same. It's not one cookie which can be fed to all, right? It has to be different. So you got to understand where your problem statement is, take a tool to help the recruiter manage that aspect, remove the burnout and fatigue, and automatic the recruiter time gets focused in the right areas, right? You've got screening tools out there, you've got candidate management tools out there, you've got candidate calendar management tools out there, you've got interviewing agents out there, but you got to find what's the best fit for you, ideate, or otherwise it'll become another graveyard like our ATSs.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned the agents. I know that's a lot of what Tidy Hire does, and also the support the recruiters rather than to replace. I think that's what we all want, right? We all want to be productive and hopefully not have to work twice as hard to do twice as much. So I think Jeanette, I think we probably have time for one more.
Your turn. You take it. Take it away.
Cool. I'm going to go for it. So before we connected, we were talking about a few things that we wanted to talk to throw at you, and one of them was like focus areas. Now, I think Javed, you had suggested that we talk about like 3 focus areas that you're looking at, but this is the 100th episode, so you're going to have to do 100. Kidding, 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 kidding. Again, a whole lot of listeners just disconnected. But maybe you can talk about like the 3 areas of focus that you're thinking that TA should really focus on, when it comes to, I don't know, better enabling their recruiters through the use of AI.
Absolutely. And, I talk to as many TA friends as possible, and I keep asking them, how have you changed post pandemic? Or how have you changed when the AI disruption has started? Nobody's thought about it. And I keep telling them that the 3 focus areas for any talent acquisition professional, one is a very basic one, and one is a very nuanced way of looking at it, is go back to that workforce planning and make sure that you're aligning your business needs and you anticipate the skill need before the gap. Go back to that workforce planning. That's your foundation of how you're going to recruit and what you're going to recruit. And if you don't have that right, you're going to keep chasing your tail. That's what I keep saying to my friends, right? The second part is have the right technology stack. Don't give in to the FOMO of what somebody else is using and what somebody worked for, or something might have worked for somebody else. You've got to have the right stack of technology which will help your organization. Just very, very, very high level example, Stephen, is I was talking to a TA friend who's in the retail business, but is implementing something which has only worked in the tech industry. It's not going to work in that retail world because the need is completely different on how that agent or the AI or the stack is going to work through. The last one, I keep saying this, is your employee brand and experience. How are you going to attract the right people if you're not communicating what your brand stands for and what your experience of that is? For example, there was a case study that we were doing here in the Middle East. I was doing the study for this big client, and they said our attrition is about at 50%. People join us within 18 months, our attrition is about 50%. That's a lot of time lost and money. And I looked at the data. They were hiring from the best of the B schools, best of the universities. and their cutoff was only about at 90%. But what happened is they could not communicate what their brand stands for and what the experience that they give. So all the fancy B school and the fancy universities would come, see a mismatch, and then leave within 18 months. So we had to go back and look at their brand experience being attracting the right way of looking at talent, not just the jazzy ones, right? So you got to go back and take this in the right direction. No longer employer brand looks amazing on your website or on your social media. It actually has to be portrayed in the life cycle of candidate management. That is when you're going to get the right talent to come in. So those are my three focus areas that I keep telling my TA friends, don't lose sight on. Don't get don't get hyped by the whole technology hype. That's going to come and you will find the right stack. But there are two things which you have in your control right now so that you can just go above and beyond the others that you are in the industry right now with.
I love that. I think those three are so key. So for those that are listening, like versus watching, like rewind, like re-listen, because this is really key. And, again, what works for one company or industry doesn't mean it's going to work for another. Doesn't mean it's a bad tech stack. It's just what works for you and the authenticity, right? Like you have to be, and when you're doing it at scale, to your last point, right? The candidates, it's like they don't want to be tricked. You don't want to be tricked. It's so, so key. And knowing where you want to go. Well, this is awesome. I love that as a great, milestone episode. This is fantastic. Javed, thanks for being here with
Thank you,
us. We
Tina.
really
It's
appreciate
been a
it.
pleasure. Thank you, Stephen, for having me. And I think, last statement I would want to leave my audience and you folks is we always try to go back and look for that culture match in a candidate. That's so wrong. Look for a culture fit. You will get your hiring done much faster.
Well, you tell your wife and your kid that to treat you better. And thank you for treating us well.
Oh my God.
Robin, this has been fantastic.
And episode 100, we're out.
Thank you very much, guys. Take care, please. Ciao. Good night.
Take care, everyone.
Cheers.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and LifeLock has tips to protect your identity. Use strong passwords, set up multi-factor authentication, report phishing, and update the software on your devices. And for comprehensive identity protection, let LifeLock alert you to suspicious uses of your personal information. LifeLock also fixes identity theft, guaranteed or your money back. Stay smart, safe, and protected with a 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
You take your trading seriously, and so should your broker. At EdgeClear, we believe every futures trader should have access to professional tools and 5-star service. That's why we're the forward-thinking futures broker. Built by traders for traders, we deliver the personalized support, transparent pricing, and modern platforms that you need to stay sharp. Visit edgeclear.com/Spotify and see why active traders are making the switch. Disclaimer: derivatives trading is not suitable for all investors.